Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to go somewhere quite unusual, not somewhere that you would actually expect there to be a craft brewery, and somewhere maybe some of you haven't actually heard of, but meant to be a very beautiful place. We are going to go to the Åland Islands, who are in a Swedish-speaking autonomous region of Finland, meant to be really beautiful, somewhere I'd quite like to go and visit actually, but we're going to go and visit their craft brewery who are called Stallhagen, and apologies if the pronunciation isn't quite right, but this is their US Red Ale, which is one of my favourite styles of beer, so I thought this is a good one to actually kick off my Åland Island reviews. But I have to admit, when I ordered this beer through Systembolaget, it came up as a Finnish beer, and then I got it and found out it was from the Åland Islands, so I thought, yeah, this will be a pretty cool one to do, so here we are. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the company. Since it's from the Åland Islands, which is somewhere maybe you haven't heard of before, I'll tell you a little bit about the history of the Åland Islands as well. But if you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual website links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the links to my future reviews that I'll do from Stallhagen, and also the Facebook page for the channel. Please like it, and my Untappd profile too. So feel free to get in touch with me whatever way you wish. And to my other viewers on the Åland Islands, please let me know the other beers you think I should try from Stallhagen. And if any of you guys are watching from Finland or Sweden, do let me know some beers you'd like me to try from there as well. But as I told you, Stallhagen are from the Åland Islands, which is a Swedish-speaking autonomous region of Finland. And just to give you a bit of history of this, the Åland Islands were actually ceded to Russia by Sweden as part of the Treaty of Fredrikshamn in 1809, meaning that they became part of the Grand Duchy of Finland. But Sweden wanted the islands to be non-fortified. However, the Russians began to fortify them in 1832 with the fortress of Bormersund, which was captured by the French and British during the Baltic campaign in the Crimean War back in 1854. But the islands were completely demilitarized by the Treaty of Paris following that war in 1856. If you remember rightly, Finland used to be part of the Swedish Empire, but the Swedish troops actually acted as a peacekeeping force between the red and white factions during the Russian Civil War in 1917, but later they were replaced by the Germans, who I think were requested by the white faction. But in 1919, a petition from citizens of the Åland Islands for integration to Sweden was signed with over 95% support, and this largely came as a result of anti-Swedish sentiment in Finland, and this was really because the Finns were dealing with were trying to resist Russification from the Russian Empire, of course. But Finland refused to cede the islands following this petition, and the case went to the League of Nations, the predecessor, of course, to the United Nations today. But they decided that the islands should remain an autonomous region of Finland, and they also maintained that the demilitarization should continue. So yeah, that's a kind of brief history of the Åland Islands. I do remember reading about that when we studied the build-up to the Second World War in school, and about the League of Nations and things. So quite cool to learn a little bit more about the Åland Islands, and there are a few other things. I'll put the Wikipedia page down below about the Åland Islands so you can read about that a bit further. But anyway, to tell you about the brewery itself, Stallhagen were founded in 2004 by a group of beer enthusiasts, and the brewery now have over 1,600 shareholders. And the brewery itself is based in Grälsby, which is about 18 kilometres from the capital, Mariehamn, and it's actually the only brewery on the islands. There was another one, I believe, that it said closed in 1850 or started in 1850, not quite sure, but there was another one. But these guys are now the only brewery on the Åland Islands. And the current CEO of the brewery is Jen Venström, and the brewmaster is Mette Ekholm, and he's been in the brewery since 2008, and he trained at the Scandinavian School of Brewing in Copenhagen. And largely he says he likes to stick to using malts, hops, water and yeast in his beers, quite similar, I guess, to the Bavarian purity law of 1516, the Reinheitsgebot. But one of the brewery's recent exploits is actually really quite interesting. They were involved in the recreation of a beer dating from the 1840s, and this was one that washed up on the shore of the Åland Islands in 2010 in a crate that was filled with different beers and champagnes. But the beer was researched by the VTT Technical Research Centre of Finland, and now Stallhagen will produce this beer at their brewery, and all proceeds will go to charitable causes under the Åland government. So really quite a cool thing. And if you check out the brewery website below, you'll see the thing that tells you, there's a page there that tells you about the shipwreck beer. I believe that's what it's called, just simply the shipwreck beer. And I think that has been in production since 2013. It's quite expensive though, but if you are rich, do give it a go. Apparently it is very, very nice. But just to list some of the other beers you can get from Stallhagen, there's Stallhagen 3, the Delicat, the Honey Beer, the Pale Ale, US Red Ale, and the Baltic Porter. I've heard that the Baltic Porter is supposed to be their best beer, but this one is also rated really quite highly as well on Rate Beer. So very much looking forward to trying it. And they also have a range of special and seasonal beers. So as I say, do check out the brewery website, and they also do brewery tours. So if you find yourself on the Åland Islands, definitely go and check it out. Hopefully I can go and visit there sometime. I really would like to go and visit the Åland Islands and indeed Finland as well. That would be really cool. But let's get on to the tasting of this beer now. So this one is a 6% US style red ale, and it contains Chinook and Amarillo's hops, and it's got a malt base mixed exclusively by Mate. So it should be quite an interesting one for us to have a look at. You can see the American Eagle on the front of there. It looks really nice. It does have, it tells you on the back, it says, our brewmaster Mate Ekholm was inspired by the red-brown granite of the Åland Islands when he developed Stallhagen US Red Ale. Before Prohibition, American Red Ale was a popular variation of the Irish Amber Ale in the US. This top yeast beer was made of domestic and American raw materials. The ale is relatively light but clearly hopped with definite aromas of dried strawberries. The full-bodied taste has tones of coffee with smokiness from roast barley. So yeah, it should be quite an interesting one for us to try. I've seen on Rate Beer, some people describe it as an amber ale, but some other ones describe it as a red ale. But I guess that's one of these styles that has quite a fine line between it. And there you can see the bottle cap on this one there. It says handmade by Stallhagen. So yeah, pretty cool actually. So in this one it says the slow beer. So yeah, should be quite an interesting one. So let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting here. As you can see, nice smoky opening. You can actually smell the sort of candied fruit strawberry coming off this one actually. Just as you open it, it just kind of bursts out and comes at you. So very much excited to try this beer. Yeah. So as you can see, it's actually, well, when they said it was red, they certainly weren't lying. Some of these beers, they say they're red ales, but they come out more of a sort of coppery amber colour, but this one is definitely red. I'll just bring the light over and let you see that, but definitely kind of bright red colour there. Maybe it is a bit coppery when you look at it, but when you just put it into the natural light like that, it really does come across as being quite red. There's a finger and a half of a frothy, kind of creamy coloured head there, maybe going into the slightly beigey shades actually, but it looks very nice. If I put my fingers behind it, there is a certain degree of transparency to it, but it is fairly hazy, but looks really quite nice. There's no bubbles really sticking towards the bottom of the glass, but you can see quite a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there. It looks very, very nice actually, so very much looking forward to having a go at this one. So in terms of the aroma, it has what you would expect of an American red ale actually. It's got a nice, it's actually more hop forward in the aroma I think, but underneath you can get a nice big caramel malt. It's quite toasted and there are some bready elements to this beer too and some nutty characteristics, but it is actually quite fruity like I was saying. You have to go, to get the strawberry notes that they're talking about from this one, you have to go a little bit further back to smell it. But when you actually take a proper smell of it like this, I think it's mainly an orangey citrus that's coming out of this beer. Perhaps with a little bit of grapefruit in there. You can smell just a little bit of that more sour, kind of more tropical grapefruit note. But there's a good bit of sort of grassy, there's a good pine resin note in here as well, which from the Chinook, I think the Chinook hop is the one that gives you more of a kind of piney character to the beer, but really quite nice actually. But yeah, definite orange and grapefruit in this one. You can get a bit of the candied fruit when the bottle opens up, the sort of candied strawberry character that they're talking about. But I want to say it's more of an orangey or grapefruit character from this one. But as I say, you can pick up a definite hint of pine resin in there, and there's a good bit of floral aromaticity too. Maybe a bit of grassiness, but yeah, overall it smells like a really nice beer, so do give it a smell before you actually get stuck into it. Without further ado, we are going to drink this beer now. So we are going to try the US Red Ale from Stallhagen in the Åland Islands. Skål! That's really quite nice actually. Nice big hoppy characteristics to the beer. They say on the back there's a sort of coffee or smoky character to this one, and it is definitely roasted, but I'm not sure I would agree with coffee actually. There's a definite roasted, very dark caramel flavour to this one, and in fairness, you can get just a little bit of coffee character to it, but I wouldn't necessarily say smoky. If you pay attention to the middle of your palate, it's just blanketed with quite I think it's a quite light bready malt base there, almost like rye bread actually, slightly a kind of rye-ish flavour in this one. Maybe it's some domestic malt that they're using in this one, but it does come across as a kind of rye character, but you can definitely pick up, they're saying there's roasted barley in it, you can definitely pick that up in the middle of your palate. There is a little bit of a dry roasted character sitting there, and you're getting the big rich caramel on top of that as well, and the caramel does actually taste quite toasted in this beer. Yeah, definitely some nutty or woody flavours kind of infused into this one as well. It's a really interesting blend of flavours, so it's quite nice and quite sessionable. It's easy drinking, this beer, so if you do like red ales, give it a go. It's really quite well done actually. But yeah, solid malt base on this one. The caramel sweetness comes out a little bit more as you take a few more gulps of this beer. But around the edge of the tongue, I want to say at the back corners there's just a little bit of earthy character from the hops, but as you move further forward, it's a bit floral and aromatic. It's probably grassy as well. It's very smooth as you come forward, and the more floral and aromatic dry characters come out on the front curve of the tongue there, so it's quite a nice one actually. It's the flavours in this beer blend together really well, and at the same time it is quite sessionable and quite easy drinking. Yeah, really nice actually, really enjoyable beer. Only 6% as well. It doesn't have much in the way of boozy characteristics, but to me, if I think about some of the imperial red beers I have, the flavours that come out of this one are really quite interesting, because to me, if you actually build this beer up a bit, it's got all the elements there from an imperial red ale as well. It's just a little bit toned down, so for me it kind of hits the spot. One of the best red ales I've reviewed actually, just in terms of my palate. Beer of course is always subjective, but I really quite enjoy this one. I'd definitely buy it again. But yeah, definitely the hoppy characteristics in this beer are really quite nice actually, so give it a go. I mean, as I say, a little bit of earthy character around the back edges of the tongue, quite smooth as you come forward, but then the floral aromatic characters come out around the front of the tongue, but just behind the tongue, you'll feel the front of the tongue, you'll feel a little oily bubble, and there's some nice orangey juicy citrus coming out of there, maybe just a little bit of grapefruit as well, but mainly an orangey citrus coming out of this beer. And in the aftertaste, it does linger. There's quite a big toasted character in there, and that's the kind of roasted barley that they were talking about in the beer. It's a nice toasted dark caramel flavour in there, not quite molasses, but just a roasted slightly sweet caramel there, and a kind of breadiness lingering in this beer too. And the earthy character in the hops actually becomes a little bit more dry as you go into the aftertaste, but overall, in terms of the flavour, this one is really nice. And I have to say, red ales are one of my favourite styles of beer, and this one is probably, it's one of the best ones I've reviewed on the channel quite easily. So many people try to brew this style of beer, but they just don't hit the mark. But Stallhagen here have actually done it really quite nicely. But anyway, with the mouthfeel of this beer, I would say mid-bodied. The carbonation is quite smooth. It comes in with a little bit of an attack, but then it kind of helps dry out the hoppy characteristics of the beer. It's got a slightly oily mouthfeel as well. I would say that. There's a nice big malt base to this one. It gets a bit drier as you go through the beer. Good bit of sweetness too. Not so much in the way of juicy character from the fruitiness of the hops, but the edge of the tongue is quite smooth for the most part. There's a little bit of dryness at the back of the palate from the earthy character, but also some dryness from the sort of floral aromatic elements of this beer too. But overall, it's a really, really nice beer, and if you enjoy a US style red ale, then I would definitely recommend that you go and try this one. So yeah, I think you can get these beers in Sweden and in Finland. Not sure about further afield than that, but if you do happen to try this beer, do let me know in the comment section below your own thoughts on it, and where you're drinking it is always interesting to know as well, so please do let me know about that. But I hope you've enjoyed this beer review, my very first review from the Åland Islands, hopefully one of many. I mean, hopefully I can do some more Stallhagen ones, and hopefully they actually do get some more craft breweries there at some point too. But very cool to visit a new place and do a beer review, so I hope you've enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Thank you to those of you who are watching the videos. There will be more Swedish ones. Over the next couple of videos, I'm going to be doing a lot of Swedish beer reviews, so tune in for those. And please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. As I say, I hope you've enjoyed this one, but slange just now, and I'll catch you soon.